Hi everyone, thank you so much for choosing to watch this video. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to talk about my project today. We're at the end, we're so close to being done, but I'm really excited to share the success of my project and some of the problems that I faced along the way, as well as how I handled those. If you've been following along on this journey, welcome back. If not, my name is Abigail Martinez. I have been working solo on Project Summit. My client is Maru Health. I also work for Maru Health as their IT admin. We were founded in 2016 and are a mental health care provider. We offer an app-based 12-week program that is specifically designed to help people deal with anxiety, depression, and burnout. When you're going through those 12 weeks, there are designated and predetermined lessons, but as you go through the program, you are also talking directly and in real time with a licensed therapist. So for Project Summit, I was specifically reporting and carrying this project out for our care coordination team. They're our main support team. To give you a little bit more context as to why I'm reporting to them, other than them just being our support team. So IT, I mentioned I'm the IT admin, but I am the only IT personnel. So when I say IT, I'm just talking about myself, but we have IT, and then in the middle, there's care cord, and adjacent to them is our clinical team. And that includes clinical leadership and operations, clinical operations leadership, as well as all of our providers. So IT doesn't always know what clinical has going on, and clinical doesn't always understand what IT has going on, but care cord always knows what's going on with clinical, and they always know what's going on with IT. And that's the reason why I was reporting directly to them for this project. More specifically, I was reporting and updating Erin Jacobs, who is our Associate Director of Care Operations. A little bit more about me. Of course, like the rest of you, I am pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Informatics. My focus is in web and mobile application development. Although in my actual career, I'm moving more towards a path of IT and IT management, which it is still relevant. And I was able to use some of those development skills for this project. But it was really interesting to see like how my school is aligning with what I'm actually doing out in the real world. But project management was something that has always been on my radar, something that I've always been interested in. And I was really happy to get an opportunity through this project and through this class to be able to explore that in more of a structured, supported way. And in the beginning of the semester, I wasn't really sure if project management was right for me, if I was the right type of personality to be able to have that kind of career. But now that I'm at the end of it and I've gone through this project, I'm more interested than ever, and I'm really excited. Hopefully the success of this project will help give me more opportunity to kind of move into more of a project management role at Maru Health. So I'm very excited to see what opportunities come up and where I move in the future. I did also have assistance from one of our care coordinators, Amber Jones. Because of her positioning in the company, she offered crucial support and just a really great perspective on what was going on with clinical and the needs of the therapist that maybe I wasn't fully understanding. And I really, truly believe that without her assistance in this project, I would not have been able to pull it off to the extent that I was able to pull it off. And it definitely wouldn't have been as successful without her help. I know that you don't know her personally, but I just wanted to shout out her because she was really invaluable to me. And her assistance and guidance and just her perspective really helped this project and was a key factor in its success. Some other noteworthy stakeholders, I just wanted to take a quick moment to shout them out. Like I mentioned, Erin Jacobs, our Associate Director of Care Operations, I was reporting directly to her. But some of the clinical leadership that ended up coming on a couple weeks into the project that I also wanted to give a quick shout out to is Leanne Richter, our Associate Director of Clinical Care, Shannon McFarland. She is awesome. She's our VP of Clinical Operations. Trish, Carolyn, and Bela are our provider team leads. Nikki Kidd, our Director of Operations, and our other Abby Reggio, who is our Senior Care Coordinator. I really, truly believe without their insight and their guidance that this project would not have been successful. So now to talk about the actual project itself. The objectives of our project was to enhance Maru Health support infrastructure, as well as address any current challenges and streamline our support processes. Another objective was to aim for a scalable solution that would benefit not only our providers, but also our support and clinical leadership, pretty much all of those people that I just mentioned before. In order to achieve these objectives, I established the goals of creating an internal help center, updating our current existing help center, developing an AI chatbot, at least for providers, updating and adding to our knowledge base, and transitioning to Zendesk for reporting. So to give you an idea of what we were dealing with before, anytime a provider or leadership had a request, they would have to use Slack, and they would go to our technical support channel for technical requests, or they would go to our support administrative channel for care coordination requests. On top of that, I'll show you a snippet here in just a second. On top of all of the Slack confusion and craziness, we also have some things in Google, but a lot of just our information type of documentation lives in our Notion, and it is information overload central inside of Notion. It is really chaotic. Our providers are also all contract, so they aren't in these systems and using these tools like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like we are. And they were just getting really overwhelmed. Any information or process changes that were passed along before this project, it would just add to the confusion. People wouldn't understand, things would get misinterpreted, and it was really hard to control the support process. And so this whole project really boils down, if I had to boil it down to one thing, its ultimate objective was to create a foundation for a scalable support solution. And we were able to accomplish that. And I'll talk about why I believe that it really truly was a success in just a second. But going back to that information overload, this is just some examples. Because of what we have stored in our systems, I can't give you direct access, and we are a healthcare provider and we're HIPAA compliant and all of that good stuff. We have our security policies really locked down, but I can at least show you screenshots and snippets of some things here and there. So on the top at the left, this is a screenshot of our Notion. I had to zoom out so far that you can't even read anything that's in there. That is how much is in there. And I don't even know that half of it is usable or is looked at consistently. But even what you see in there, everything is just a subfolder. So once you start clicking into things in there, it's so much. It's really overwhelming. It's really hard to organize and make sure that that everyone is getting the same information. And on the right of that is the brand new internal help center that I set up. I do want to backtrack a little bit and just give kind of a disclaimer. I did not create any of these tools from scratch. Our Zendesk account already existed prior to this project, which is another reason why this project adds value to Maru Health, because we were paying, Zendesk is not cheap, and we'd already upgraded it before I started this project. So we were paying a lot of money for a tool that we were barely utilizing. So on the right, you can see I set up a second brand. The box that's to the side is the AI chatbot that I set up. I did some custom coding. I added that submit button in the middle towards the top. I added that for just ease of access. I was also able to create some custom code to just differentiate the internal help center versus the external help center. We locked down the internal help center so that only people who have an @maruhealth.com email address can sign in. That way our participants aren't accidentally seeing some internal process documentation and stuff like that. It is just for providers. It's just for internal folks. One thing that we did receive feedback from some therapists was when they started to hear about this, they were kind of scared, like, oh, great, this is just another tool that we have to add to the list. But I explained, no, this is an all-encompassing, one-stop shop kind of tool, and they got really excited. This is exactly what they've been looking for, and everyone is super stoked about it. I know that this will only continue to grow outside of this being a student project. On top of that, I also created a lot more articles. On the left are all of the articles that I created. On the right is all of the bot work that I was doing. For the articles, I also added to help digest information and really simplify it, because people are really overwhelmed, and that's kind of how That's the attitude that they're coming in with. So we really wanted to scale down the help center and keep only necessary information in here. That way our providers aren't getting overwhelmed again, and it's the same problem that we were experiencing before, just in another tool. So we really simplified things. I was also able to add some custom code inside of the articles to be able to section them out. You would think that would be built into Zendesk, but unfortunately there is not that capability. So I had to create some customization to be able to create sections, like expandable sections in the articles that therapists can go to, and they can click on what they need when they need it. And it's really accessible, and it's right there at their fingertips. The budget, if you saw my proposal video, the budget for this project is just completely theoretical. But this gives you kind of an idea of the cost of Amber and I's time. We were not additionally compensated for this project, but if our roles didn't exist and we weren't working for Maru Health already, they definitely would have had to bring someone in and contract someone to deploy this project. So to give you an idea of what that could cost, myself as the IT admin, my hours, I dedicated 25 hours per week for approximately 10 weeks. It ended up taking us a little bit longer, and I'll touch on that in just a second. But especially towards the end, I was probably dedicating a lot more than 25 hours per week. But at an hourly rate of $35, that labor cost is around $8,750. Amber's work, she dedicated around 10 to 15 hours per week. Again, towards the end, she was probably dedicating a lot more. But an hourly rate for her of $30 is an additional cost ranging from $3,000 to $4,500. So the potential overall cost, and this is just the minimum, would be around $11,750 to $13,250. So we really ended up saving Maru a lot of money that would have been additional costs that they didn't have to cough up because we already worked for the company. So that just gives you kind of an idea of what this cost would look like in reality. But like I said, it's just theoretical. We were not additionally compensated for this project. But we were successful, and I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish. We did end up with a scalable support solution and a centralized tool for providers to be able to find information and submit requests. We were able to, because we were pulling everything from Slack and Notion over into Zendesk, we are now able to utilize all of the tools that we weren't using before, such as reporting and data pulling and all of that stuff that we can do in Zendesk. We're now actually able to utilize all of those, all the functionalities of that tool that we were already paying for. And because of all of that, we now have streamlined workflows and a better support process, which in turn just better supports our participants and gives them a better experience when talking to support. It will also help our clinical and care cord leadership to be able to give evidence and to give data that backs up the need for hiring and resource allocation. So I'm hopefully in the future, this will lead to me being able to hire someone, but we will see. Some problems that I faced during this project were some technological hurdles. Of course, as I mentioned, I wasn't setting anything up from scratch. I had to rely on tools that we already had. So I was very limited to what I was able to do in Zendesk. And some things, nothing really even noteworthy, but some things changed here and there. And, but regardless, I was still very limited to what I could do in Zendesk or to what I was able to customize in Zendesk. Of course, naturally, there was some resistance to change. I mentioned the therapists were really kind of hesitant at first until they understood the scope of the project and how we told them this is a one-stop shop. It's a centralized support tool that is just for you. And then we also had some timeline constraints, which was really interesting. When I had initially started this project and a couple weeks later, our clinical leadership became involved, what I didn't fully understand at the time was sometimes our participants either restart or repeat the program. Shannon and Leanne really wanted to be able to track how often this is happening and the reasoning behind why those restarts and repeats are happening, so they can start gathering that data and figure out if there's something that we can do for our program so people aren't restarting or repeating. And so they kind of came on and they kind of steamrolled the project a little bit, if I'm being honest, and it was really frustrating. But that their only focus was that one little piece. And I really had to learn along the way that clear and regular communication is very, very important, especially with stakeholders who maybe aren't in the project and they don't know the details and the ins and outs. They weren't there in the beginning. But it's really important to communicate that with them. We also had some issues after we rolled out the help center for all providers. Some of them, but not all of them, a handful of them were still submitting on behalf of participants in the external help center, and which is not at all what we wanted them to do. They should only be going to the internal. That's what that's there for. And we couldn't understand why they were submitting to the wrong help center until I caught in Slack someone posted incorrectly because they didn't understand the process. And one of the team leads told them what to do, but they told them incorrectly. And so I corrected the team lead and I was like, oh no, it's actually this process. I ended up having luckily it was like respectful, constructive conversations with her. She had completely misunderstood the scope of the project and what this was going to look like at the end. And her initial response was, oh my gosh, like this is a really big change. I didn't understand this. Like, how are we communicating this change? And I said, well, it's not a change. This is what we presented. This is what we said. But if she didn't understand, that is on me because I didn't clearly communicate this process change. And so then she went and told her people incorrectly. So one really big lesson that I learned that I'm definitely going to carry with me moving forward is instead of asking like, what do you think? Or do you have any questions? Like they had some questions that we were able to answer. But I think, and of course, hindsight is always 2020, but moving forward and looking back, I wish I would have taken the approach of coming up with different scenarios and having them submit tickets and having them walk through that process more. So more thorough testing, asking better questions was a big lesson that I really learned, but we were able to correct it. We're still in the process of rolling out some further education to kind of do some damage control that's just kind of sifting in at the end. And luckily she understood and we figured it out. But I really want to wrap this up by saying, I truly believe that this project was a success. We had some problems. I didn't exclusively talk about timeline, but we started around September 1st. I had initially hoped to get done around November 17th, just to give us some more wiggle room at the end. But when that misinformation kind of created some problems that ended up kind of extending that timeline, and I had to do some additional work that I just completed a couple days ago to get that to finished and wrapped up, which is totally fine. Aaron was really flexible, and clinical leadership, once they understood like, okay, this is not just a support solution just for the restart repeats, like this is a whole fully fledged solution. I was able to stay on top of communication, and everyone was really flexible. So thankfully we were able to overcome that. But I really, truly believe that this project was a success because, going back to that core objective and that core goal to create a foundation for a scalable solution, like I haven't even fully turned in everything for this project. And I already have 2 more projects building off of this one in the gate that I'm going to be working on in the next couple of weeks. So people are already recognizing its success, its potential, and they're like, okay, let me get in on this. This is awesome. Let's build on top of it. In the past, we've tried to do things and it just kind of fizzles out and things crumble, but people are really excited for this. I've gotten nothing but good feedback and positive feedback. So I know this is only going to help me. It's going to help Maru Health and CareCord, and I'm really excited to see where this goes and to see how the projects build off of this main project. I know I'm a little over time. I will wrap it up. I'm sorry for going over, but again, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you have successful projects as well, and I'm excited to see what happens in the future. Bye.